This is another episode of Standup Comedy, your host and MC, celebrating 40-plus years on the fringe of show business. Stories, interviews, and comedy sets from the famous and not so famous. Here's your host and MC, Scott Edwards.
Hey, everybody. If you've been listening the last couple weeks, I got together with some very good friends, my ex-partner and best friend, Bob Stobener, and his little sister, Lynn, who is like my little sister. And the three of us were just working our butts off back in the 80s and 90s at Laughs Unlimited, our chain of comedy clubs. And the last couple weeks and going into this last part, we've been sharing some stories, some nostalgia. We have a box of memorabilia we're going through, and we're trying to keep it entertaining for you, the audience. But quite frankly, we're having a great time. So if you're into it, join in and listen and have some fun with us. And we'll be back to our regular shows, which is a combination of stand-up comedy sets and interviews of professional entertainers next week. Really appreciate you listening.
Should we go back to the hat? Do we have any more? Okay.
A couple more times with the hat, but I see you brought something special.
I got one more thing in the hat here. And I want to, can we talk about Soupy Sales? Oh. And the reason why I bring up Soupy Sales is because I didn't see him.
I don't know. A
lot of people don't know Soupy Sales. Soupy Sales.
I know.
Well, just to set it up, Soupy Sales in the early 60s was like the top children's television host working. I mean, he was up there with Kangaroo.
Captain Kangaroo.
Oh, right. He had a big lot of slapstick in his show. It was, kids really loved him.
He was slapping kids?
And he had a network show, and then it was just a local New York show, but he was on for years and years and years. But he knew a lot he was on the inside track with Sinatra and Dean Martin and, the Rat Pack and knew a lot of people in the industry. And so when you booked him, I was excited because, he was one of the real true old
one
school.
bacon away from a lot of people.
He was. And so I think he had a great time working for us on the one night he had it.
Well, so to give everybody the exciting part of this is that Soupy Sales' claim to fame was on his nighttime show, big time celebrities, Cary Grant, presidents, Ronald Reagan.
Sinatra got a pie in the face.
Yeah. A lot of really famous people would show up. They would there would be a knock at the door. The guest star, the celebrity would open the door, and Soupy Sales would hit him in the face with a pie. And it became a badge of honor that all these celebrities wanted to go on a show and get a pie in the face. So again, I like the classics. So I booked Soupy Sales, and probably again at my father's insistence, but I booked Soupy Sales, an amazing, funny comic. He had a great week. But because of his celebrity with the pies, I set up, I like doing press things, marketing things with Y92, Paul and Phil, that we had Soupy Sales at a local Chevrolet dealership, and that and they were going to interview Soupy Sales, and the gag was, it was prearranged that Soupy would throw a pie in the face of Paul and Phil. Now, Paul and Phil ended up being famous as the Answer Guys. They won a couple Emmys, and they were stars on a radio show here, but they were also comics that worked our club. So it's all symbiotic, right?
Yes.
So we get Soupy Sales out to the car dealership. The press shows up. Paul and Phil are there doing a live taping of their show. It was early in the morning, and they interview Soupy, and a couple things happen, and then some whipped cream pies come out, and he slaps them in the face of Paul and Phil. And I was there, of course, as the producer of the show, and I said, hey, what about me? Because this was like a historical moment for us that knew Soupy Sales, and they had arranged, there was a pie, and I got hit in the face with a pie by Soupy Sales. And what was so exciting about it was that that moment was really funny. Soupy was really cool about it. He was great on stage. Great to have him as a historical comic and showbiz celebrity on our stage. But I interviewed Paul and Phil for this podcast a couple of years ago because they were so important to the beginning of our club. We got a lot of press. We had all the comics on their shows. But one of the big stories and one of their greatest memories especially Phil Cowan, went off on one of the highlights of his life was getting a pie thrown in his face by Soupy Sales. And just like you, he was name dropping Ronald Reagan, Frank Sinatra, Cary Grant, all these huge people. Armstrong, who went to the moon, got a pie in his face. I mean, all these, and he goes, and me. Soupy Sales got me.
It sounded like him.
Yeah.
And me.
And it was a great moment to share. It was great to be there. But we had a couple special moments with Paul and Phil. I'll never forget, and I reminded Paul and Phil of this, we would bring comics to the show, and Bob and I were regulars bringing people to the show. Bob and I were there. Boz Scaggs shows up live in the studio and does an acoustic version of Lowdown.
Could be, yeah.
Right there on the air.
Yeah.
And I have an air check of it.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah.
I'd like to get a copy of that. That's very cool.
And it was just, wasn't planned.
Yeah.
We brought a comic, and there's Boz Scaggs.
Yeah,
and
that's awesome.
He was, you were there.
I do not remember that. I don't think I was, because I would remember that. I did see Boz Scaggs in Old Sacramento at a club after a concert, and I was like, from me to you, away from him, like he was just playing right there. But that is an amazing memory, to an acoustic version in the studio with him.
Well, I was bringing it up because what's interesting about being on the fringe of show business, which is the term this podcast audience has heard many times, we interacted with celebrities from time to time, TV personalities, movie personalities, but through the radio stations, Bob Keller over at KZAP, and Tim Bedore when he was at KZAP, and Paul and Phil at Y92, and even Tom Sullivan, who's still a huge radio celebrity. Yeah. I had a chance to be in his studio and bring comics and interact with him when he was just a local guy here in Sacramento. Mm-hmm. Now he's, national and one of the biggest shows on the air. So Tom Sullivan and I, we're like this.
Yeah.
And for the audience,
2 fingers wide apart. Yeah. That's right. As if never
you are 117 bacons away from.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to.
Well, that's true. We had another great experience, and Bruce Baum, a very good friend of ours, loved Bruce.
Terrific comic.
He was in 1981, I believe, recorded an album called
Marty.
Well, he had Marty Feldman Eyes, but the album
was actually a hit.
Was called Born to Be Raised, and so he had some success with Feldman, and then he had to build out an album for it. Part of which he recorded at our club.
Yes.
But he also invited you and me, Scott, to go down to the studio in San Francisco to watch him or watch some of the recordings. So we had lunch and stuff. But we went to Wally Heider's studio in San Francisco, which if those people that don't know, so Wally Heider is a massive, very famous recording studios in Los Angeles. He opened one in San Francisco. Bands like Journey, Jefferson Airplane, probably Boz Scaggs recorded there. Crosby, Stills, and Nash and Young recorded Deja Vu there. Wally Heider Studios in San Francisco was a very famous studio. And my memory of it is we get there and it's really like you couldn't tell there was actually anything in this building. It was like just a very small door and you walked in front.
Nondescript, right?
Very nondescript. And the studio was like just about the size of a dining room. I mean, it wasn't like overly large is my memory. So it wasn't that impressive, but just knowing that what these walls have heard over the years, just astounding to me. And then the other memory I have of it is that they were doing a disco track. And I don't remember, I think it's the barbecue. I can't remember which track it is on it, but it was a disco track. And to do the disco, they didn't have drum machines back then because this is the early 80s or whatever they had was very primitive. Anyway, they didn't have a drum machine. So the drummer had to do the track is 5 minutes long. The drummer is just up there on the drum set doing for 5 minutes.
Oh, wow.
And they're recording this. And this is what we're getting to hear. And it's like, and that's my memory is like, how stupid is this? But the poor drummer, that's how they had to do it.
The creation of music is they lay down 12 or 16 tracks, and each track is a different instrument or voice. And in that moment, they were just doing the drums for a disco song, which was so basic.
It was amazingly basic. All this history here, and I'm hearing. That's great.
Well, again, we've talked about Bob and his love of the Beatles. He is also a bit of a music historian, and so I remember going to the studio, but I had no clue where I was or
God.
how important it was. So
You can go on the Google for that, because at the Wally Heider studio is pretty famous. I have another story that we went to up to Tahoe. I think it was Robin Williams' show in Tahoe. We got backstage, and John Sebastian was the opening.
Oh, yeah.
Was the opening
remember
artist for
that.
them. John Sebastian,
Famous musician.
played at Woodstock, was also a leader of the Love and Spoonful, which
Did he
Heroes of
try to
Mine.
lie on you on the couch and do inappropriate
that's
stuff?
what you call a callback,
That
ladies
was
and gentlemen.
a callback.
Of course,
no,
if you don't
no,
edit
he
these
didn't.
Together,
I was,
it's gonna be...
but my memory was, I wanted to get his autograph, and we got Robin's as well. But I wanted to get his autograph, and he's. I'm just talking to him, which was surreal. And then I'm saying, can I have your autograph? I just want to kind of prove to people that we hung out. We
That's what
we had a
stalkers
couple
say.
we had a couple drinks. We wrote some songs together. So I'm telling him this, and he signs it, and he laughs, and he signs it to Bob. Great writing songs with you, John Sebastian, which is very, very
That's
cool.
so nice.
I mean, this is a
That's
guy that
cool.
wrote Summer in the City with his brother, by the way. But anyway,
There's
so
a little
very
music
cool.
history for you, and that must have been cool. Speaking of musicians, Paul and Phil had the Christmas special every year,
Yeah.
and I would go, and sometimes I hosted. I always brought a comic. A lot of times it was Bruce, but Huey Lewis was one of the acts that liked Paul and Phil and were there, did a couple of them. And I was hanging out with Huey Lewis a few times. I mean, the people you meet when you're in the industry is fascinating. Now, I'm not starstruck. I've been around celebrities, since I was young. So I rarely have any. The only time I wish I'd had a photo or an autograph was Robin Williams, but all the others, it didn't mean anything. It's Boss Skaggs. Oh, it's Pat Paulson or Tommy Smothers. I never was the type that, I got to get a picture. I got to get an autograph. And now that I'm older, I regret some of not doing that. I mean, I have the Tommy Chong. We should say that Cheech and Chong were huge, famous comedy act, lots of movies. And I got Tommy to the club twice. And when he
And
played,
the audience had some weird cologne that smelled like the ganja.
oh yes, there was a little bit of pot in the room, but he did "Earache My Eye," their famous song from their album, live on stage, and I'll just I mean, I had goosebumps. I'll never forget that
that's
moment.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
And
So
then-
what's in the bag?
Well, I'll bring that. I just want to bring up Graham Chapman once.
Oh.
There's a very last story because.
Ladies and gentlemen, go to the Googler and put in Graham Chapman, and here's why.
So we're all huge Monty Python fans. I mean, I think certainly everybody who owned the club was. I know
Morning.
Yeah, everybody's a huge Monty Python fan. And Graham was doing a tour
I'm not dead.
celebrating his not being dead yet, because unfortunately he did have cancer and he died shortly thereafter. But he was just
We were
wonderful.
one of his last gigs.
He was such a wonderful person, and he was so gracious and to do the show, and it was really special. He wasn't even coming in as a comic.
No, it was more of a sit-down storyteller.
Yeah, it was almost like a.
For us, it was like having one of the masters of movie comedies. They did Monty Python and Search for the Holy Grail and some other just amazing movies. And of course, he and his troupe, Monty Python, were behind Fawlty Towers, which was a long-running, famous
John Cleese, sure.
comedy show in England.
Yeah.
With John Cleese, right, and many others. But what Bob's leading up to is that we booked him really because we were such huge fans.
Yeah.
And instead of doing a comedy set, it was more of a lecture and it was
It was
amazing.
a TED Talk before Ted had talks.
He was
he-
the original Ted.
He talked about hanging out with the Rolling Stones, the Beatles.
Yeah.
He was name dropping right and left. It was amazing.
We even got I remember getting some audience complaints because he's not funny, but it's like,
Yeah,
we don't
where's
care.
the stand-up?
This is
Yeah.
not a comedy show tonight. And it was just great to have him there. Very, very,
The people
pleased
that came
we-
to see Graham Chapman from Monty Python were absolutely blown
Oh my
away.
God.
As
And he
we
did
were.
a little bit of a bit of business towards the end of the act. I mean, he did something. It wasn't, but it was more about his experience. I remember, well, he was celebrating his, what was he doing? Dropping out of airplanes, something with, skydiving. Wasn't that it?
He was celebrating skydiving?
Well, it was something he was doing personally that he was very excited about, and he wanted to communicate that.
Well, he was dying. He knew he had cancer.
Yes.
No, this was not part of the show.
The skydiving
But he
part.
knew he was going to, he didn't have long for the world. And one of his bucket list was to skydive.
It was, right?
Yeah. And that was what had him. But he was also kind of doing a tour. It was almost like a farewell tour without telling everybody that he was sick.
But he really wanted to talk about skydiving.
Yeah.
It's my memory.
Well, that was a backstage thing. He didn't do it on stage. But that's a personal moment you were able to have with him because we own the comedy club. Yeah. And as Bob mentioned, we had amazing magical moments with Graham Chapman from England and Monty Python. But about 6 weeks, I mean, very closely after he worked for us, he did pass.
Yeah.
And it was just so great that we had a chance to do that. And this may be a horrible timing, but what I love about this podcast is that we get a chance to reconnect with the people that we work with. And I had a chance to do a really nice interview with Amazing Jonathan, who was a terrific magician out of Las Vegas. And sadly, he passed away just a few months later. And yet I have this great interview that I get to share with the public with his story, which was amazing in itself.
There's a great documentary about him that I cannot remember the name about.
Yeah, and he talks about that in the podcast. So I didn't mean to go sidetrack on death and comedy, but we've had so many great opportunities to interact with people that are no longer with us, sadly, but we have those memories. And thanks to now this podcast, there's a way to celebrate and save it. And so thanks for sharing the Graham Chapman story.
Yeah. Yeah, it was fantastic. It was great experiences.
We've been doing pulling ideas out of the hat.
Excuse me, Scott. Who's hosting the show today?
I'm sorry.
Oh, snap.
Ooh, boy. All right. So hopefully we still have an audience and there's still people here. We're going. What I've done is I've brought today a couple sacks of old things that we had back at Laughs and Limit. Now this is going to do you listeners at home no good because you can't see any of this. But what I'm going to try, what we're going to actually try to get is the honest reaction,
yes,
of Lynn and Scott to seeing this stuff that they haven't seen in a long time. So I'll ask you to remove your drinks from the desk, please, so that we don't have any accidents. Thank you very much.
While you're getting to pull stuff out of this magic box that you've saved, I want to explain to the audience that Bob Stobener is not only my terrific friend and longtime partner in many companies.
He's a hoarder.
He's a hoarder, but he was also a graphic artist and did all my marketing and advertising for all of the businesses, but especially the comedy club. And what he's generously brought to today's studio recording looks to be a box of memorabilia that I have not gone through or seen. So it's your show.
Well, why don't you?
You don't want to pull stuff out and
should we be wearing gloves?
No, it's not that. It's that.
He's pulling stuff out of the bag.
Bumper sticker. I got
right on top is our old bumper sticker. Our logo, Laughs Unlimited, and the motto was "Laugh if you've been there." We gave away thousands of these.
But what is the first memory you have when you see this?
The Laughmobile. But what do you think?
The promotion that you used to say, "Bring in your car, bring in your bumper with this on, you'll get in free," and a guy actually took the bumper off his car and brought it in.
That?
No, I didn't remember that.
Seriously? Yeah, I thought we had the bumper for a while.
We used to do this promo called T-Shirt Tuesday where we made up T-shirts that had our logo all over them. And it said, "I got this T-shirt, but I get in free at the club." And it was a big advertising thing. But we sold them, and then the people got in free on Tuesday nights. And so we did wacky promotions like that. And what Lynn's explaining is we had these bumper stickers, and if you brought your car in or your bumper in with the sticker, you got in free. And apparently somebody did it. I don't remember that. Lynn?
I do remember. I'm sorry, I'm reading.
Yeah, now we're all looking at the stuff.
This is going to be a wonderful editing opportunity for Scott.
Oh, by the way, you know what I'm holding? I'm holding an actual theater ticket from one of our early concerts at the Community Center Theater.
Yes.
We did three or four of them.
Three of them.
Yeah. Where we sold out all but one, and that one was close to sold out. But we had Jay Leno, Yakov Smirnoff, Jerry Seinfeld, Paula Poundstone. We had some Dana Carvey. We had some amazing acts that we did in concert at the local theater. That's cool to see, Bob.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
What do you have, Lynn?
I have I got a autograph of Dana Carvey saying to Bob, remember, always risk is fun.
So,
Risk, a game board.
Just like bowling, we would invite the guys over to play Risk on Sundays, usually. There's the old reserved. You're going to have to edit a lot of this out. And so that's what that's referring to.
No, wait a minute. You cut yourself off. What he's talking about is we used to take the comics back to the condo and play Risk, which was a board game that we used to love to play in high school. And Dana Carvey played with us once and then wrote an autograph to Bob saying how fun Risk was. And then Bob's referencing, I'm holding one of the original reserve signs. Of course, every club has to reserve tables for VIPs and stuff. So I'm actually holding one of the original 1980s version of a Laughs Unlimited reserved table sign.
And here is the liquor usage form. Ooh. Well, we're talking podcast and entertainment.
Well,
I have a flyer headlining Dave Coulier. Before he changed it to Coulier. Oh. That was not a typo. That was how he used to pronounce his name. And we also had opening the show special guest, which means you had yet to find someone.
Oh yeah, that's what that meant on the marketing. So what we're doing, folks, is we're going through the scraps of paper from back in the 80s and 90s and sharing them with you. I'm holding an actual ticket to the Art of Pasta, which was our family pasta restaurant across the alley from the comedy club, for a special New Year's Eve party, which is kind of cool. And it's from 1988. Wow.
Our Laughs Unlimited New Year's Eve shows were always great.
They really were.
We really lucked out. One of my favorites from Full House, which was on the air, we had Bob Saget and Dave Coulier together co-headlining for New Year's.
The 5th anniversary.
How cool is that?
God, how can I not remember that? But
that was fun.
God, that was huge.
You are cordially invited to an invitation to a champagne party to celebrate the grand opening of Laughs Unlimited, Thursday, August 7th, 1980 at 5 p.m.
No way.
Was that the
Can
new
I see
club
that?
or the original club?
That's the original. August 7th, 1980. That's when we opened. I didn't even know we did these.
I didn't know it either. But
That's
I did it.
cool.
Here's the you're cordially invited to the grand opening of the Magic Hat.
Oh, the bar upstairs. I'm holding the cover for what was called the Laughs Unlimited gift pack. And we would put a number of free tickets and 2-for-1s. And it would value at about $40, and I think we sold them for $25. And people would buy them as Christmas gifts.
Oh, yeah.
And give them to their family and friends. That is cool. Oh, here's one that's got all the tickets.
Yeah.
That is cool.
Do you have any stories about Jack Marion?
Jack Marion, for everybody, it was a really funny comic. But back in the day, you know, nowadays everybody drops F-bombs and does stuff that's just stupid dirty. But back in the day, there was a real art to doing what we called blue humor. And so that's when you're talking about sex or, you know, lady parts or, you know, doing it with animals, whatever.
Scott,
and there
we're
was
all adults here.
And even though the comics might occasionally drop an F-bomb or do a dirty song, Bob Saget was famous for his risque songs. There was one comic, Jack Marion. He had one album that came out. Remember, folks, albums were these 10 inches of plastic that you know had songs 12 inches. Well, yours is bigger. And Jack Marion had an album called Real Balls, Volume 2, and he had some of the funniest material. But it was, you know, it was always very sexual, but it was so funny and so well done and always funny and never included F-bombs. It was just...
He had very clever stuff.
Very clever.
Even though it was blue.
It was about sex, but it was so good.
Our uncle and Aunt Barbara and Uncle Ed, they came to a laugh show, and he was the headliner.
I do not remember that.
But they enjoyed the heck out of it. It was very funny. Here's a good one. Look at that.
Oh, cool. He's holding a ticket for our show starring Bobcat Goldthwait.
And who was one of their best friends? One of his best friends.
Who?
Really? Jack Gallagher. Jack and him are super good friends. I think that's how you guys
I saw Jack just the other day. He's doing some training here in Sacramento at the B Street Theater, teaching comics. Jack Gallagher, very funny comic.
He's teaching comedy?
Yeah, lives here in Sacramento.
You can see it. So we tried everything.
I'm holding something very special. This is a ticket to, a lot of people don't know on the podcast, we produced 3 TV series. We did a 1-hour special for Fox, and then we had a short run series with, I think, the ABC affiliate and one with the NBC affiliate. But we actually had to do special tickets, and I'm holding a ticket for the show Live at Laughs Unlimited that we sold people so they could be part of the TV audience when we taped the KTXL Channel 40 1-hour special. Here's the bad news. It aired the same night as An Early Frost, which was a movie about being gay, and
well, it was a very high-profile movie that got
all the
big
churches,
ratings, everything.
Were telling everybody you had to watch because it was about AIDS. It was the first real public movie and discussion about AIDS. And so that's the night our comedy show ran.
Or you can watch comedy.
It didn't do as well as we hoped.
Did you say the churches were promoting that?
The churches were telling everybody that they had to watch it because AIDS was killing a lot of people at that time. This is the mid-'80s.
Speaking of that past, here's an advertisement for it. It was the Wacky Person You card.
Yep, there it is. You Wacky Person You.
Is that part of our membership club?
Yeah, that was the membership.
I'm holding a card with the cute little guy. My brother draws all that stuff. He's very talented.
That's a magic hat thing.
And it's blank.
You know what it is? We had a magic store.
I know, but
that's a price tag.
That's a price tag for the magic store. We had a magic bar called the Magic Hat, and then across the hall I had a magic store because I love magic. And Bob put together all the marketing stuff. I'm holding a ticket to a New Year's show starring Baby Man Bruce Baum. He's been heard on this podcast many times. Hilarious prop comic.
I don't remember this show. And it's at the community center.
Yes.
I don't remember it.
Because I remember her running off stage and finding out how much time longer she could be on because of the union. It's like the show could not go past a minute past
10 o'clock or something.
Yeah, something like that. She had to wrap it up real quick.
Who else was on the show? Do you remember?
Elaine Boozler, by the way, is one of the top comedians at the time.
The Miss the Dog Tour. That I don't. May 21st, celebrating our 10th anniversary. This is 1990.
Did you see this?
Oh, look at that.
These are the actual plastic cards for You Wacky You admission cards as part of our club. These are the proofs. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take away from Boozler. Boozler's a terrific comedian. Look her up on YouTube. Very, very funny. She's done a ton of TV.
You know what also I don't remember, which is crazy. Well, I don't remember a lot of things. But on our menu that we call them like cow sandwich, which was hot pastrami, bird sandwich, turkey. I don't remember pig and cheese, ham and cheese. I don't remember us being witty with that way.
Oh, we always came up with funny things. In fact, may I? You're holding one of our original menus, and here's what you have to hear, ladies and gentlemen, because no one of you will remember Thunderbird wine, but it was a wine. Old Sacramento used to be the home of a lot of winos back in the 70s and 60s. It got converted into a tourist area, but it used to be just hobos and bums. And Thunderbird is this really, really cheap, awful wine that the bums would drink out of a brown paper bag. So what did we do?
We sold it for a lot of money.
We sold it. So on our menu it says, and don't forget to impress that special someone, Thunderbird, half bottle served in a brown paper bag without drinking glasses, $1.38. It's right on the menu. That's hilarious. Hey, I'm holding something very special I'd like to read to the audience, if you guys don't mind. It's a small baby card like you're expecting, and it says, I've been had, but I'm not the only one, is handwritten, and then handwritten inside, it says, Dear Scott, Patty, Mac, Fawn, and Bob, this is my way of saying happy belated New Year's. Can't wait to return. Loved your flyer. I ate it. Thanks for being nice people. Your pal, Bob Saget. A personal note from Bob Saget. How cool is that? And then on the baby side, it says, bye. and he wrote sexual. Baby's name, he put bastard. Born, he put to be wild. And wait till you return. Wait until I return. Anyway, very creative, very nice, and autographed or signed by Bob Saget, who gave this to us. Yeah. Bob, thanks for sharing this stuff. This is amazing.
It's pretty fun to watch, to look at again.
Okay, quiz shows for the owners of Laughs Unlimited.
Yeah.
In 1985, November 27th, 1985, you had Jay Leno in concert. You produced a show. How much was the admission price?
$35. Remember, this is
Bob.
a long time ago.
For Jay Leno?
Mm-hmm.
He's mumbling off mic.
It wasn't 85. I want to think.
It says
That's a
1985
great
on this ticket. So.
It is an 85.
Oh, I thought you said it wasn't.
No, it was 85. I want to think $20?
$12.
Really?
What?
No wonder.
No wonder you went out of business.
I only charged $12.
That's in the orchestra.
Jay Leno, $12.
Now everything is explained.
He was still an elevated nightclub comic. I mean, he'd been on to Carson and stuff, but it wasn't
He hadn't
like he
done
had
the Tonight Show or anything. But still, $12 to go to a big night.
Yeah.
I mean, the Convention Center Theater cost us like $5,000 to rent. How many tickets do you have to sell at $12?
Well, you
never
it
guess
out.
what I'm holding.
Oh, look at that.
Ladies and gentlemen, you have to see this.
They're not going to see it.
It's a printed card that says, "We're getting hitched," announcing the wedding of Scott Edwards and Patty Badeau, February 14th. That's right, Valentine's Day, 1982. Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard it often mentioned. My first wife, 18 months of marriage, 18 years of payments. And I married her on Valentine's Day, so I would never forget my anniversary. After 18 months of marriage, I can't forget that bitch. No.
Oh, come on now.
I'm kidding.
Patty.
I love Patty.
Love
We've
Patty.
been divorced like 30-something years. We still talk. We're good friends, but it was a difficult time for Scotty back in 80. Well, 82 was fine. By 83, 84, life got very challenging. But that's interesting. This is the wedding announcement.
That's the wedding announcement.
Wow.
I think we've lost all the audience by now, right? Okay,
I'm
so
sorry,
it doesn't
folks.
really matter.
This is fun for us. I don't know if we're explaining it enough. We're going through a box of
This is going to get you over 24 listeners.
lots of paraphernalia. I'm holding a flyer promoting Jerry Seinfeld and the Funny Boys, a great Hollywood comedy team that ended up doing some TV and movies. The Funny Boys were opening for Yakov Smirnoff. Oh my gosh. The feature act was Jerry Seinfeld.
Oh, that's it. That's the.
funny.
Oh no! Wait. When
I don't know, but
All Star Laughs. Oh, that's a concert.
Yeah,
that's
I
when
remember
that was at Community Center.
wow. That just shows you Yakov was an opening act, then a feature. These guys are big time pros, did movies, TV.
Don't
Ferris
remember.
Bueller's.
Ferris Bueller. Yeah. I'm holding a ticket to see Harry Anderson at our club, famous.
One of the songs that was very popular at the time was "Take Me Down to a Paradise City." I just remember that song playing.
Oh,
Lynn is not a singer.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
she is a singer.
Ladies
Did you
and
say
gentlemen.
Aunt Lynn?
No. Aunt Lynn. Ladies and gentlemen, take your seats. I have something shocking in my hand. Everybody that lives
Oh, no, Scott.
2000
Man, you keep saying there's special things in your hand.
something that will shock and
It
amaze
will
everybody
shock.
listening in
Amaze.
2023. This is our after the show drink specials menu.
Oh.
Are you sitting down?
You're okay.
Well, drinks and wine, $1.
Oh boy.
And we're talking 10 ounces plus. And draft beer, ladies and gentlemen,
60 cents. I don't know.
50 cents.
Oh my God.
You know what you pay for a draft beer or a glass of wine these days?
Oh my God.
$1 and then 50 cents for beer. Wow, we had a really good after the show special.
We did.
All right, well, we don't want to bore the audience too much more.
Too late.
Too late.
They're all gone.
Yeah.
Anyway, yes, it's been great to go over a few things. I just wanted to. There was a couple other comics that we didn't really talk about, and just to close it out,
We shouldn't leave people off the list.
we don't. Well, we don't want to leave people off the list. We're
Because
very inclusive here.
there's a lot of famous people, but there's unknowns like that.
Well, Shirley
whoever
Hemphill,
Ellen is.
nobody-
Ellen, I just see one word. I just see Ellen. Ellen
DeGeneres.
Ellen DeGeneres
had a show for a while.
Yeah, she's very. She's
an up-and-comer.
Big fan of Ellen.
So back in the day, before her fame and fortune, Ellen was just a regular comedian, and she came through the club as a feature act. She only worked for us once for a whole week as the feature, and I thought she was good, but she never came back because soon after she started getting some recognition, started doing some of the talk shows, and then, as we all know, a few years later, got her own talk show, and maybe you've heard of it.
She might have been the first female comic to have been called over by Johnny Carson to the couch.
She might have been.
Oh, really? Even though Elaine Boozler and all these others,
I think
Paula Poundstone.
No, they were after her.
We had Shirley Hemphill, who's an old actress / comic who was on the TV show What's Happening way back in the day in the 70s. She came through the club. Charles Fleischer, who was the voice of Roger Rabbit in all his movies, was worked our club several times, and he was a little nuts on stage. In fact, one time,
he was quirky off stage.
Quirky off stage as well. He actually interviews himself. He was supposed to do a radio interview, and he ends up interviewing himself. And I captured all that and shared it on one of my bonus shows. Yeah. But Charles Fleischer, very interesting guy, very talented on stage. Worked for us a couple times, and then got famous with Roger Rabbit and working with Disney. But just a few more of the people that came through the club that we had a chance to rub elbows with.
We met a lot of famous people, and this, I think I said this on a previous episode, but I think it's even more memorable. Many of the people who were not famous. I mean, overwhelming majority of people we never heard from again, but they were just really brilliant performers, and it was great to hang with them.
Well, yeah, you were alluding to, Jeremy Kramer, or even Bruce Baum never got famous.
He did things like Hollywood Squares, and he would have, he was on a lot of TV shows and TV specials, but
he was on The Simpsons.
He was on The Simpsons.
As himself.
That's right, as a character, which is pretty amazing. Yeah.
So you would think he was somewhat famous for that.
Well, I think he was inside famous. He was known in the industry. Yeah.
Right.
But
Bob's right. We were really blessed to work with many people. Tim Bedore, Steve Bruner, Mark Yaffe, I could go on
Frank
and on.
Prinzi.
Jeff Jenna, Frank Prinzi.
I'm going to start my own podcast. Where is Frank Prinzi? That's all.
Where is Frank Prinzi?
Where is Frank?
Frank, where are you, Frank? We want to talk. We want to get together
again.
If
you're listening to this and you know who and where Frank Prinzi is, reach out.
Mr. Prinzi. I think we even have a set or two on video of Frank. The great
then
Frank
maybe
Prinzi.
I should watch it because I had a crush on him. I can.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, anyway, this has been really great. I guess we can close it out now, officially.
Well, yeah, and thank you to my audience for being patient with... Oh, sorry.
You're breaking the rule. Do I have to put you back up in your closet? I'll do it. I'll stop. I'll turn this bus around.
I thought he was down in the basement.
We want to thank everybody for coming, joining us today along this little nostalgia route. I want to thank Scott for letting Lynn and I take over the show. And it's been great. A lot of fun.
Are we doing a children's party?
Scott, it's been a lot of fun. Thank you for letting us come in and
taking this stroll down memory lane.
Memory lane.
And it really has been fun. I mean, not only are we like family and been through many adventures together, but this box that you brought and going through some of the stories from back in the day really reinforces the interesting life that we were able to lead because of Laughs Unlimited and some of the great friends that we made over the years. And I just want to thank my audience for being patient and going along with this trip of nostalgia. And a little selfish of us, but I think there's some good stories.
I also want to thank our partners, Mac and Fawn and Patty and Rich and Millie and Paul Lear for his contributions. I mean,
there's a lot of
so many people that helped
Sue
make
Henderson.
Laugh. Sue,
was such an important part. My bride, Jill,
of course, Jill,
your wife,
and
Cassie.
Jill and Cassie. Well, I'm sorry. I did not mean to not mention Jill and Cassie, but I'm talking about when we were actually putting up the walls to get it started.
Yeah, but there was other people. Ben Tony was around a lot, and Mary, the waitress, and Patty Sewell, and Sherry Morissette. I mean, there were people that worked with us side by side for over a decade that helped make Laughs Unlimited the success it was. Yeah, it was me and my partners like Bob, Mac, and Richie, Lynn, who was not only a terrific employee and brought in lots of people, but a really funny comedian. In fact, we mentioned Ellen. We should give a plug. Even though Ellen only worked my club once, she went on to fame and fortune and started touring as a concert comedian. Lynn opened for her in concert, right?
Again, she closed for me.
That's the correct terminology, I believe.
What year? Do you remember what year, where it was?
86.
It was at UOP,
87?
the University of the Pacific. And no, I don't remember. I'm so between 80 and 90.
Well, my point of bringing it up is that you are not only like a sister and so important to the clubs and all the businesses, but you are such a terrific master of ceremonies and comedian. We had so much fun over the years, and I'm wearing your glasses.
Oh, didn't even
and it was just, and it's fun to have you on the podcast because you always bring your sense of humor. And Bob, I have to say, for those listening, the host for today's show is Bob Stobener, but not only was he my best friend and early partner and first best man at my first wedding, but yes, there's been more than one. He was my partner in a couple other businesses and a good friend since high school, but has been made clear in this weird, reminiscent podcast as a graphic artist, as a humorist, and as a terrific guy. You emceed shows, you ran some of my clubs and restaurants, you were always there working with me side by side on the TV shows and radio programs, and artist. Your art, there's a whole box of Bob's talent right next to us that put us on the map and made us a success. So for Lynn and Bob, who to me are family, thank you.
Yeah, well,
thank you.
Thank you. And most importantly, I want to thank Cassie and Jill, the most important people.
You're afraid of getting in trouble, aren't you?
I'm trying. I'm really backpedaling here.
Well, no, but it's true. But
it's true because I met my wife through Laughs Unlimited. Cassie, the love of my life. We went
two amazing children
and
that
two
I'm
amazing
the godfather
children.
of.
Yep.
And you met your wife because Carrie and I played basketball at Side.
That's right. And Carrie worked.
It's all such a small
Art
world.
I mean, yes, we used all of our family.
Yeah,
in our business.
And even Jill, my bride, came to work at like 1920 because she fit the jacket. We had
it was the Brady Bunch.
We had the girls in white tuxedo jackets to serve food and to seat the people. Somebody quit.
It was the first person to quit.
First person to quit. And Jill shows up with a friend. And Lynn's first question to her, I think, something was like, what size are you? Something like that.
Yeah. No, I remember it because I remember I was in the bar and Pam had just gave a notice and Natalie came in and Natalie brought Jill in. And I was telling her about needing to find someone, and Jill seemed interested. And what size?
And the long story short is she fit the jacket. She ended up being a hostess. Then she became head of the kitchen. Then she became one of our best bartenders for years. Then she ended up running one of my restaurants. Oh, and somewhere in there, I got divorced, was single for many years.
Your starter marriage. Concluded.
Yeah, my starter marriage. And then we got together, and we've now been married like 24 years. Yeah. And we've been together like 35 years. But it is all really the focus of all this, or the crucible of all this life excitement, was Laughs Unlimited. All these people came together to make something that was nothing into something special. And we were all a part of it. And I just am so appreciative.
And after we opened in 1980, so it'll be 43 years today. And nobody in town talks about this, but Laughs Unlimited is still running, still successful. It has to be the longest running continuing live entertainment platform in the city. Go out and see some comedy, folks, wherever you may find it.
Stand-up comedy is always better live.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And I think that does it for us.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. We were having so much fun and going through so much nostalgia.
I'm going to slice my wrists. I'll be right back.
We ended on kind of a serious note, but I did want to show on this podcast my appreciation for all the people involved. Oh, God. I have to mention one other person that was very important to the club, and for some reason hasn't been mentioned, Chris Braun. Did so much for the club. She helped run some of the restaurants. She helped run the club at times.
Chris
Braun, if you're out there and you happen to hear this, you're not forgotten. You were just set aside for a minute.
Thinking of Chris, how about Chris? I mean, Chris Andrus, and Bob Melody, our bartenders.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Rich Giannichini and Jim McCandless are in our world, Mac. Yeah, there was a lot of guys that we went to high school with that ended up working at the club. Yep. Chris Andrus almost got arrested by ABC because he was fooling around with his then girlfriend, soon-to-be wife, and he sold a drink to an underage agent. Yeah. That was fun.
Oh, boy, the comedy.
What else? Yeah. Woo.
Bob Melody, he was a bartender.
You had a lot of friends that worked at Laughs.
I did.
Yeah, we couldn't have done it without you.
There's just too many people. We're going to miss somebody. I'm afraid. I'm going through my head. Okay.
The Philpotts, Pam Philpott, Cindy Philpott. No, we can't name every employee.
I think
my brother stole money and stole cigarettes.
That's another story. Okay. All right. Well, that's another podcast.
There we go.
Yeah, okay.
We've gone way too long, but ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being patient.
And if you're still listening, wow.
Yeah. Do that.
Okay. All right. You're the host. Take it away.
Okay, everyone. Thank you so much for listening, and come back again and listen to us soon.
All right. And don't forget, if you're 29th caller, call us now. You might win $5,000.
Right.
She's kidding, folks.
You probably won't.
Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye now.
Bye. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Stand-Up Comedy, your host and MC. For information on the show, merchandise, and our sponsors, or to send comments to Scott, visit our website at www.standupyourhostandmc.com. Look for more episodes soon and enjoy the world of stand-up comedy. Visit a comedy showroom near you.